You ever have a moment you knew you shouldn't linger in, yet you did anyway? A moment that felt like the world had tilted, just slightly, daring you to step into a place you weren't supposed to go? That's what this story is about. And I can't tell you why I didn't stop it. Maybe loneliness makes us reckless. Maybe silence in a marriage feels louder than any warning bell in your head. All I know is, it started with something so simple. My car breaking down. I wasn't the kind of woman who expected surprises anymore. My life had settled into a rhythm so steady it sometimes scared me. Coffee in the morning, grocery lists scribbled in a notepad by the fridge, laundry that never seemed to end. A house that echoed more than it spoke. And a husband who communicated more with his phone than with me. I told myself love wasn't supposed to be fireworks. It was endurance. Partnership. Comfort. But comfort had a way of curdling into emptiness. That day, when my old sedan sputtered and gave its final breath on a quiet street, I just laughed under my breath. Of course. Of course it would die here. I tapped the steering wheel, pulling out my phone. My husband. He wouldn't answer. He rarely did. So, I called my son, hoping he could slip away from work. "Mom, I can't," Ryan said, his voice tight with stress. "But I'll send Evan." Evan? The name pulled me back years. My son's best friend. The boy who used to raid my pantry every Saturday, who called me with a teasing grin. I remembered messy hair, long limbs, and the kind of harmless energy that filled a room with noise and laughter. 15 minutes later, a sleek black car pulled up beside me, and the man who stepped out was not the boy I remembered. The lanky frame had hardened into broad shoulders. His jaw was sharp, his hair neat but effortlessly tousled. His movements carried a confidence that didn't belong to teenagers. He was grown now. Entirely. "Hey, Mrs. Parker," he said with that same grin, though deeper now, more self-assured. "Need a lift?" I smiled, maybe too quickly. "Looks like it." Sliding into the passenger seat, the air shifted around us. It wasn't just that he'd grown up. It was the way he carried himself. Calm. Steady. And when his eyes flickered toward me, it wasn't the way a boy looks at his best friend's mother. It was different. Unsettling. "Been a while," he said, easing the car back onto the road. "Yes," I murmured, folding my hands in my lap to keep them steady. "You look different." He chuckled. "Guess growing up'll do that." We talked lightly about my son's job, about his own plans. But beneath it, something hummed. I was far too aware of his cologne, subtle but warm, the way his fingers rested casually on the wheel. The way his voice seemed deeper than I remembered. I told myself it was nothing. Just nerves. Nostalgia. Loneliness I didn't want to name. At a red light, he turned fully to me, his gaze steady. "You haven't changed at all." My breath caught before I forced a laugh. That's what happens when you hit a certain age. You just settle. His jaw twitched, but he said nothing. When we finally pulled into my driveway, I reached quickly for the handle, eager to escape whatever strange tension hung between us. But his voice stopped me. "You don't have to settle, you know." I turned, startled. His face was unreadable. Quiet but piercing. Then he smiled, easy again. "I'll see you around, Mrs. Parker." I stepped out with my heart racing in a way that had nothing to do with a broken-down car. I told myself it was nothing. Just a passing moment. But it didn't pass. Days later, I saw him again. Pure chance. I was stretching for a box on the top shelf of the grocery store when a warm presence appeared behind me. "Need help?" That voice. Low. Familiar. I froze before turning. "Evan." He grinned as he pulled the box down with ease, handing it to me. "Fancy seeing you here." I tried to smile, but my chest tightened. His eyes lingered, not crude, not obvious, but slow. Observant. Too close. "Just grabbing a few things," I said, clutching the box like a shield. "Me too." He lifted his basket casually. "I couldn't have told you a single thing inside it." "Well, thanks," I murmured, hoping my voice sounded steadier than I felt. But instead of stepping back, he leaned slightly forward. "Can I ask you something?" I shouldn't have let him. But I nodded. Of course. Are you happy? 2 words. So simple. But they cracked something open inside me. I should have laughed, changed the subject, walked away. Instead, I froze. I am, I managed. He didn't argue. Just studied me, quiet. Then he nodded. Good. He stepped back, smile returning, as if nothing had been said. See you around, Mrs. Parker. That night, I sat across from my husband at dinner. His eyes on his phone. His muttered answers automatic. I nodded in all the right places, but all I could hear was Evan's voice. Are you happy? I told myself I wouldn't see him again. That it didn't matter. But loneliness has a way of making you look for what you shouldn't. One evening, I spotted him across the park. He wasn't alone. A girl clung to his arm, laughing, and something twisted in my stomach. I had no right to feel it. No claim. But before I could turn, his eyes found me. He said something to the girl, then jogged over, slightly breathless. Mrs. Parker, he said warmly. Didn't expect to see you here. Neither did I replied too tightly. He glanced back at the girl. She's just a friend. I blinked, caught off guard. I wasn't sure you were, he added, voice low. The way he looked at me, calm, knowing, made heat rise up my neck. Evan, I started, but he cut in gently. I like that you care. My breath caught. I should have walked away. But I didn't. And that was the moment I knew this wasn't just coincidence anymore.